The day my mother died was one of the hardest days of my life. I lost a woman who raised me, who believed in me even when I didn't have the strength to believe in myself, who guarded me with a fierce and unwavering love only a mother can give. As I stood at her graveside, numb and hollow, Jenna stood beside me, her fingers wrapped gently around mine. Her grip was soft but steady. I thought she was my anchor, my comfort. I thought her silence was grief. I thought her stillness mirrored the ache in my chest. What I didn't know then, what I couldn't have guessed, was that Jenna was already planning her exit. 3 weeks later, I sat in my mother's lawyer's office, the walls lined with books and the air thick with the scent of aged paper and quiet formality. He slid a folder across the polished desk and began explaining the details of the estate. I stared down at the papers, stunned. My mother had left behind a small fortune, investments, property, a robust savings account. I had never known. She had built it all in silence, in shadows. She had never lived lavishly. Her house was modest. Her car was 10 years old and grown with every turn of the key. She clipped coupons like it was still 1995. As I flipped through the numbers, a wave of disbelief washed over me. I had never been someone who chased wealth. I worked in finance, made a respectable income, lived comfortably but never extravagantly. I never felt the need to reach beyond our means. But Jenna had grown up with very little. She used to tell me that Mary and I had given her the first real taste of safety she had ever known. I believe we shared the same values. Simplicity, loyalty, building something solid and lasting from the ground up. But the moment she learned about the inheritance, something shifted. Something quiet but unmistakable. She started spending without hesitation, without conversation. Designer bags began showing up in the closet. She booked a weekend in Napa just to clear our heads. She smiled a little too brightly, touched me a little less. At first, I chalked it up to grief. I had lost my mother. Maybe she felt helpless, unsure of how to reach me through my sadness. 2 months after the inheritance transferred into a separate account my mother had arranged long before her passing, Jenna handed me divorce papers. It was a Monday morning. I had just poured her a cup of coffee, the way I always did. She sat down across from me, eyes steady, voice calm. "We're not working anymore, Alex," she said. I blinked, trying to make sense of the words. "What?" "I filed for divorce," she continued. "It's done. You'll get the paperwork soon." She sipped her coffee like we were talking about the weather. "I've already spoken to a lawyer." I let out a laugh, sharp, hollow, not from humor, but from disbelief. "Jen, are you serious?" "I'm serious," she replied evenly, her gaze never wavering. "And I want my half. I've earned it." And there it was. The truth laid bare between us like a grenade dropped on the table. She didn't say she loved me. She didn't say she was sorry. She said, "I want my half." She believed the money was hers, too, that it was marital property, that because we were married, she had a right to half of what my mother had left me. But my mother, God bless her, had been many things. Quiet, modest, private, but above all, she had been shrewd. I remembered a conversation we'd had just a year before she died. We were sitting on her porch, tea in hand, the evening light casting golden shadows across her face. She looked at me and said, "Jenna's a smart girl, but don't mistake ambition for love." I had laughed then, brushing it off. "You think she's using me?" She smiled gently, sadly. "I think she's surviving. That's not love, baby. That's strategy." At the time, I thought she was just being cynical, but she had seen something I refused to see. Unbeknownst to me, my mother had set up a trust. The inheritance wasn't a lump sum dropped into my personal bank account. It went directly into a trust managed by an attorney, with airtight instructions. Jenna couldn't touch a cent. The money wasn't considered marital property. It was a gift, preemptively protected, carefully separated. Jenna didn't know that. Not yet. When she found out, I was sitting in our living room. She came through the door, her face twisted in something I'd never seen before, a blend of disbelief and fury, so raw it nearly knocked the air out of the room. "You knew?" she hissed. Knew what? I asked. My voice calmed though my pulse was pounding. I already understood what she meant. You knew I wouldn't get anything. I stood slowly. I didn't know until everything was finalized, I said. But now I do. You're a liar, she spat. You let me think. I didn't let you think anything. I cut in. You assumed. You saw dollar signs and thought you hit the jackpot. Her eyes narrowed into slits. So what now? You're going to leave me with nothing? I stare at the woman I once would have handed the world to. You're not the woman I married. And you're certainly not entitled to that money. My mother saved every dime she had. Not after what you've done. She left that night, slamming the door behind her. The silence that followed was the loudest sound I'd ever heard. The house fell quiet, hollow, cold, but honest. For the first time in years, honest. In the weeks that followed, I found out even more. Jenna had been unfaithful. Her phone laid it all bare. Texts, hotel bookings, messages with her friends. She bragged about how she was finally going to live the life she deserved. One message stood out, burned itself into my memory. Once the money's in my hands, I'm done with him. She never loved me. Not truly. She loved the image of what I could give her. Stability, potential, and finally, wealth. But as painful as it all was, I wasn't broken. I was relieved. My mother's final gift wasn't just financial. It was clarity. She protected me, even from the grave. She saw through Jenna when I couldn't. She gave me the freedom to walk away, not just from a hollow marriage, but from the illusion of it. The divorce finalized quickly. Jenna walked away with what she brought into the marriage. Very little. I kept what my mother left behind. Not just money, but dignity, strength, the values she had spent her entire life trying to instill in me. Sometimes people abandon you when you're already drowning. Sometimes they reveal who they truly are when they think they've already won. But if you're lucky, if you're really lucky, you'll have someone like my mom. Someone who sees what you can't, who guards you, even when you think you don't need guarding. I still grieve her. I always will. But I honor her more than ever now. Every time I choose peace over bitterness, truth over pretense, self-respect over settling. Jenna thought she'd won, but my mother outsmarted her. And I got something far more valuable than wealth. I got my life back.